Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana, and we're here today with special guest, Laura Griffin, who's here to share with us her new book, Liar's Point, The Texas Murder Files. So are you looking for a captivating summer read? Well, this book is just for you. So Laura Griffin is the New York Times and USA Today best-selling author of more than 30 books and novellas. Her books have been translated into 14 languages. So let's welcome to the show, Laura Griffin.
Thanks so much for inviting me.
My goodness, what an honor it is to have you here to talk about this book. So I understand that this is book number 5 in the Texas Murder Files.
That's right. Texas Murder Files is a series I've been working on for a while now. There's 5 books. It's set in Texas on a beachside island. And, I love to write books in a series that can stand alone because sometimes people like to read out of order. So if you haven't started the series, you can always just jump right in and, read the books in any order that you like because each book features its own suspense plot and its own romantic couple. So they kind of stand alone from each other.
Okay, so you have to be a brilliant writer to do that because I can barely outline a story from point A to point B, let alone 5 books. So why don't you share a little bit about this book? We
Well,
don't want to do spoilers, but yeah, share a little bit about it.
yeah, this book follows. It's a murder investigation. So a jogger is jogging along the beach and discovers a body, and that kind of sets the story in motion. And so the main characters in the story are the police detective and one of her rivals at work, and they're both working together to try and unravel what's going on. And as they interview more and more witnesses, they start to realize that people are lying to them. And so they're trying to understand what's really going on, who's lying, why they're lying, and just piece together what really happened to solve the mystery. And in the meantime, they're also very competitive with each other, and um, there's some sexual tension there too. They've been rivals for a long time. They've worked together for a long time, and but they're kind of both determined to solve the crime.
So tell us a little bit about this place where this story, unravels. Is this a place that you've been to many times?
Well, the answer is yes and no. It's a fictional place called Lost Beach, Texas, but it's based on a place that I have been many times. It's based on South Padre Island, which is an island on the southernmost tip of Texas on the Gulf Coast. And this island is really beautiful. The southern part is a tourist destination. And so you get, bars and hotels and spring breakers and all kinds of tourist activities. And then the northern part is a national reserve, and so it's more of a nature area where you can camp, you can go bird watching. They have endangered birds, endangered sea turtles. So it's kind of got a lot of things going on at once, and that's what I loved about this setting. Every time I've been to visit, I mean, there's just so much you can do from a writing perspective in a setting like this. And so the book is set on this windswept island off the Texas coast, and all the different factors of the setting kind of play into the story, which is fun for me. Um, you may notice when you see the book that there's a lighthouse on the cover, and that is also based on a real setting. That's based on a lighthouse, the Port Isabel Lighthouse in Texas, and it's a fun place to visit if you ever get a chance to see it.
So what intrigues you about writing like these murder mystery books?
Well, I got my start as a newspaper reporter, and I covered all kinds of different stories. My beat was education, but on the weekends and on holidays, we all had to trade off covering the newsroom. And so when that would happen, I would cover, whatever came up at all, in the newsroom. And sometimes that included the hard news, the crime stories. And I was always most drawn to the crime stories. I really like to interview, the police officers who responded to a scene, the detectives who were trying to, investigate something. And so I just kind of took an interest in crime fiction. And when I decided to start writing fiction, that was really what I was drawn to write.
And so these characters sound very complex. So how did you figure out this dynamic between them?
Well, I've I've interviewed a lot of cops and detectives over the years just for various books that I've written, and I would say that a lot of the people I've talked to, kind of their personal details kind of come into. I put these characters together, and they're almost like a collage of people that I've met, and then some things from my imagination to kind of you know bring them to life. Just those some of those details that you get when you talk to people in person, and you kind of see their kind of quirks and idiosyncrasies. And I've been, on police ride-alongs and things like that, where you kind of see a lot about someone's day-to-day job, and you weave those details into the story. And so that's always fun to do, to take some of that kind of firsthand experience and put it into the story to kind of bring it to life.
Well, on that note, we're going to pause here for a quick break. We've been speaking with Laura Griffin in regards to her new book, Liar's Point. We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
Have you dreamt of writing your own book but felt lost on where to start? Introducing DIYbook.us, your personal guide to bringing stories to life. Whether it's your life story, business insights, or unique experiences, DIYbook.us makes it easy and affordable. With our step-by-step online program, you'll receive a weekly email prompt tailored to you. Don't let your story go untold. Visit www.diybook.us and start your writing journey today with our free 7-day trial. DIYbook.us, where your story comes to life.
It's one thing to become attached to your perfect home, but what do you do when that home becomes attached to you? A family in dire need of a fresh start, a mysterious house tied to the past. Buried deep within the foundation of the old Far Hill Manor lies a centuries-old secret. Dark forces or something stronger just waiting to be discovered. Caretaker, a supernatural thriller by breakout authors R.J. Halpert.
Are you a coffee lover who wants to make a difference? Look no further than Fire Department Coffee, a veteran-owned business that gives back to support first responders in need. Each batch of coffee is freshly roasted right here in the USA by a dedicated team of first responders and coffee experts. So when you enjoy a cup of Fire Department coffee, you're not only drinking high-quality coffee, you're supporting members of your community. Start your day with a coffee that gives back. Visit firedepartmentcoffee.com. That's fire, D-E-P-T, coffee.com.
There comes a moment when you realize you're somewhere special. When you discover that each beautiful creature that you see has been rescued from a life of absolute horror and brought to this incredibly free place. Here's where their lives were forever changed and where yours will as well. Discover over 500 tigers, bears, and lions at the brand new visitor center at the Wild Animal Sanctuary just outside Denver. For more information, visit wildanimalsanctuary.org. Discover true freedom at the Wild Animal Sanctuary.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
I'd like to thank Jason Eastwood at Guitarfulness for sharing his inspiring music and talent with us. His music is known worldwide for cultivating atmospheres of harmony, inner peace, and clarity. Visit Jason's website at guitarfulness.com. Join his newsletter, be part of his community, and download his music. Welcome back to Moments with Marianne. We're here today with special guest and New York Times bestselling author Laura Griffin, and she's sharing with us her new book, Liar's Point, The Texas Murder Files. So what was your research like for this book? Do you do a lot of research, or you just have done so much in the past that this is something that just kind of flows through you?
Well, it always depends on the story. So, for instance, my last release that came out in the fall was about a forensic genealogist who uses DNA to trace the family trees of criminals and to try and help police target a suspect or a branch of a family tree where she believes the suspect is. So that particular story involved a ton of research because I didn't really know all the scientific background about DNA and how a genealogist does her work. So I had to do a lot of research for that because it was all kind of a new topic for me. Um, and then other characters, if I've interviewed a lot of, cops or detectives over the years, it's less research intensive because I'm kind of drawing on just, impressions and conversations and, experiences. And so, it just depends. Sometimes I'll write a character who has kind of a more of a technical job, like maybe they're a forensic anthropologist, or maybe they're a ballistics expert, maybe they're a trial lawyer. So depending on what they do, it just depends on what they do, how much research that I do to kind of come up with their character.
So is there any significance into on the cover, the X in Texas is kind of like a slashy kind of thing? Is there any significance to that?
Well, I love our designers. They always kind of come up with these. I mean, I have these things in my imagination, and I'll have like some things that I feel like are images that are associated with a story. But I'm always interested to see what the designers come up with. So they came up with that particular font that I think is supposed to be kind of suspenseful. But I when we were talking about this particular book cover, I was telling them about the lighthouse setting and how that was important to the story. So they pulled that in. But sometimes they'll design a cover that just totally takes me by surprise. And so it's always fun to see what they come up with when I convey a few ideas and then they kind of run with it and go from there.
So is there a thread that you would say that runs through these 5 books that you've written?
Yeah, I would say, they're called the Texas Murder Files, and so the main thread is that all the stories are set in Texas, but they kind of skip around in terms of setting. The first book in the series, called Hidden, is set in Austin, where I live, and so there's a lot of familiar places. Anyone who's been to Austin will recognize some of the lake and the bridges and the 6th Street, where there's a lot of nightlife. So that's one setting. We've got Lost Beach, is this fictional island based on South Padre Island in Texas. Other books in the series go back and forth to places like San Antonio, or even some fictional places in Texas that I've kind of created in my mind for story settings. So it kind of jumps around. They all have in common that they're set in Texas, and most of my books have a forensic angle. So while the mystery is being solved, there's usually some forensics that come into play in the story.
So what do you want readers and our listeners to take away from this book series?
Well, I try to have all of my stories kind of end on a hopeful note. I find that, you know, I just enjoy reading books that end on something hopeful. Not everything has to be tied up with a big red bow, but, you certainly want the mystery to be resolved and you want there to be some sort of justice in the end. And I think that's one reason people read suspense, is because they kind of want to see that outcome at the end. So I love when I'm reading, a suspense novel, when all the puzzle pieces kind of come together in surprising ways. You have the clues there if you're reading carefully, but you don't necessarily know how they're going to come together. And then it kind of takes you by surprise at the end. So that I love that. And so I like to try to do that for my stories. So I like to have a hopeful ending. I like to have a character that's very strong, resilient, somebody who's kind of been through some things and is a survivor. And a lot of my characters have that in common. So I would say that's kind of part of the message, part of the theme that I like to write about.
Well, your books are always page turners, and I love reading them. Where can our listeners connect with you and learn more about your work and all of your books and be part of your community?
Oh, thank you. Well, I have a website, lauragriffin.com. And, readers can reach out to me there through my email. They can reach out to me on social media. I'm on Instagram and also on Facebook. Love to hear from readers. I love to send out bookmarks. And I love to just visit with people who read. I love the reading community. So I'd love to hear from people.
Well, Laura, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Laura. It has been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new book, Liar's Point, The Texas Murder Files. Make sure to connect with Laura on her website, lauragriffin.com, and learn not just about this book, but all the great reads that she has. Liar's Point's available to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all indie retailers. And remember, support our indie bookstores. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.